8 years have passed since the conclusion of the war, but Sri Lanka continues to remain a divided, though pluralist society. The war victory did not appear to adequately satiate significant numbers of people who identified themselves as Sinhala Buddhists. On the contrary, ethno-nationalist appetites seem to have been fueled by the triumph, prompting the targeting of other groups as enemies. Extreme ethno-religious nationalism, manifesting itself online as hate speech, is one of the most formidable challenges to reconciliation and social cohesion. A discernible thread in the online venting of extreme and hateful expression has been the targeting of women, their conduct, their bodies, and their perceived roles and responsibilities within Sri Lanka's larger nationalist agenda. It is a phenomenon that calls for closer investigation.
In the post-war context, post-2009, there was a lot of rhetoric in the public arena which were couched in extremely extreme religious nationalism terms, vocabulary, which also included a lot of references to women's sexual and reproductive health and rights issues. Our study was more specifically looking at ethno-religious nationalism and sexual and reproductive health and rights, taking print media, social media and government policies that were in place at the time. But it was the online, the Facebook conversations that were the most virulent, extremely anti-women, extremely anti-female.
Online hate speech was also the subject of research conducted by the Center for Policy Alternatives.
There is no broad consensus around what gives rise to this. Some of the arguments proposed are that after 27 years of war against or with the LTTE, that the process of othering now requires a new enemy. The kind of hate and vicious diatribes against the Muslim community and around Islamophobia that was being generated at the time of the study around 2013, 2014 was by order of magnitude that much greater than we saw in 2009. So the hate was far more than the peak of hate against the Tamil community towards the end of the war.
உண்மையிலே இன்று சமூக வலைத்தளங்கள் இணையதளங்கள் என்பது மக்களுக்கிடையே தொடர்பாடலை மிகவும் தாக்கமுள்ளதாகவும் சிறந்த முறையிலும் ஏற்படுத்துவதற்காக வந்திருக்கின்ற புதிய நவீன தொழில்நுட்பம். ஆனால் அதனூடாக பல்வேறு நன்மைகள் நடைபெறுகின்ற அதே நேரத்தில் மறுபக்கத்திலே அது மிகவும் பிழையாக பயன்படுத்தப்படுகின்ற ஒரு சூழ்நிலை காணப்படுகின்றது. குறிப்பாக இலங்கை போன்ற பல்லின சமூகங்கள், பல்மத சமூகங்கள் வாழுகின்ற சூழ்நிலையில் யுத்தத்தை தொடர்ந்து இலங்கையிலே இனங்களுக்கிடையிலே ஒரு ஐக்கியம், சமாதானம், சகவாழ்வு கட்டியெழுப்பப்பட வேண்டும் என்ற எதிர்பார்ப்பு பரவலாக காணப்பட்ட போதிலும் கூட, ஆனால் அந்த நிலைமைக்கு மாற்றமாக இனங்களுக்கிடையே குறிப்பாக சிறுபான்மை மக்களுக்கு எதிரான சிந்தனைகளை, கருத்துக்களை, பகைமையை, வெறுப்பை வளர்க்கின்ற பாணியிலான முறையிலே சிலர் அவற்றை தங்களுடைய கையிலே எடுத்து செயல்படுத்திக் கொண்டிருக்கின்றார்கள்.
Of course, when racist posts are posted elsewhere, these are in a way spread by the Muslims themselves, anti-Muslim posts. And there are people who think that this is not a good thing, but there are also people who feel that Muslims should know what is happening around them and to anticipate problems. And then there are, of course, civil society members who act on these, they preempt problems and they engage politicians, religious leaders, and try to ward off whatever threats that may come. There are many allegations leveled against Muslims, but one of the things that kind of struck me as a bit strange, to put it very mildly, is the grouse that some have that we don't give Muslim girls in marriage to boys of other communities. Now, what was strange what is strange about this is that they don't ask for our Muslim boys. So I just wonder, is it because women are seen as only adding to the population, but it is the man who gives the label, the ethnic label, to the children who get added to the community.
Ethno-nationalist discussions online are redefining roles and identities in ways that are particularly regressive for women. Women are being cast as the biological reproducers of the nation, with direct implications for women's autonomy over their bodies and reproductive rights. Fertility of women from minority communities, especially Muslims, has become a focus of fear-mongering, triggering concern that the Sinhalese will soon be outnumbered. Meanwhile, the reluctance of Sinhalese women to bear many children is also highlighted as a cause for alarm. A particularly insidious characteristic of online hate speech has been the dissemination of conspiracy theories. Rumors were spread that Muslim shops were selling toffees and undergarments tainted with chemicals to make Sinhalese women infertile. This was followed by vigorous campaigning against contraceptive use. An extraordinary outcome of these efforts was the government's decision to instruct all hospitals, both state and private, to halt all irreversible birth control procedures.
I think it's very interesting and very telling how ethno-religious hate speech affects or targets women, in particular women activists, of course, but I think generally women. And it targets women quite differently than it targets men. I myself was part of a group that organized a protest last year. And it was an anti-racism, pro-equality kind of very, very positive, seemingly very harmless general protest. But we were, the whole thing was disrupted by a collective that identified itself as members of Sinhala. And after the actual protest and the actual physical disruption, they launched this big online attack against those of us who organized the protest. And it was a very interesting example of how differently the women who were there and who were part of organizing this protest, myself and a few other women colleagues and friends included, were targeted very differently. The attacks and the insults were always of a sexual nature. It was always to do with our, personal lives, personal choices, choice of dress, things like that. Whereas, the men got targeted in a very different way. The threat of the offline and the online for women always intersect. You can never be sure that it's purely an online threat.
Fear-mongering on social media continues, and the profiling of women in Sri Lanka, particularly their sexuality, continues. A recent Facebook post insinuated that bras with padding sold by Muslim traders is likely to contain a liquid that would leak out and make Sinhala women barren.
Gel packet.
මම නම් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් හැම අන්තවාදයකටම එරෙහිව සාමාන්‍යයෙන් පැහැදිලිවම මත ප්‍රකාශ කරන කෙනෙක්. ඒකේ සිංහල අන්තවාදී හෝ වේවා දෙමළ අන්තවාදී හෝ වේවා මුස්ලිම් අන්තවාදී හෝ වේවා පීඩණයට පත්වීම කියන කාරණාව කොයි හරි ජන සමාජයක් ඇතුලේ සිද්ධ වෙනවා නම් ඒ විරුවෙන් පැහැදිලිවම මම සටන් කරනවා ඒකට විරුද්ධව කතා කරනවා මට පුළුවන් ආකාරයෙන් කරන සාමාන්‍ය සයිබර් ස්පේස් එක ඇතුලේ පැහැදිලිවම විශාල ප්‍රහාර ප්‍රමාණයකට ලක් වෙච්ච කෙනෙක් මම මගේ ඡායාරූප පවා විකෘති කරමින් විශාල බොහොම අසභ්‍ය ප්‍රකාශන නිකුත් කරා පැහැදිලිවම වෛරී භාෂණය ඇතුලේ තියෙන වචනවලට යම්කිසි හයියක් ශක්තියක් දෙන්න ඊට පසුබිම් වෙච්ච පැහැදිලි මතවාදයක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒ මතවාදයේ නිකම් මතවාදයක් වෙන්න විදිහකුත් නෑ. හොඳ ජාලගත වෙච්ච ශක්තිමත් කාලාන්තරයක් තිස්සේ නිර්මාණය වෙච්ච මතවාදයක් වෙන්න ඕනේ. එන්න ඒක තමයි ඇත්ත කාරණාව. එතකොට මේ කාලාන්තරයක් තිස්සේ නිර්මාණය වෙච්ච මතවාදයේ නොතිබෙන්නට මේ වෛරී භාෂණය ඇතුලේ ප්‍රකාශ කරන කිසිදු වචනයකට අර්ථයක් ශක්තියක් හැකියාවක් එන්නේ නැහැ. උදාහරණයක් විදිහට ස්ත්‍රියක් විදිහට මට දේශපාලනය කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ ගෑනුන්ට ඔය වගේ කතා කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? මේ ගෑනු ඉන්න ඕනේ මෙහෙම මෙයා කොහොමද මේ ඉන්නේ? එතකොට ස්ත්‍රීන්ට විරුද්ධව මතවාදය කියන එක ඓතිහාසික කාරණාවක්.
After 146 years of British rule, Ceylon joins the British Commonwealth of Nations as an independent member.
Post-colonial Sri Lanka saw politicians exploiting and reinforcing ethno-religious nationalism to consolidate the majority vote base, with devastating repercussions. Even after the terrible experience of the war, minority communities continue to be demonized and verbal and physical attacks on them provoked. This was particularly evident with attacks in quick succession against Muslim and Christian communities.
Persecution against Christians has been there all along, and I'm able to say that very confidently because as the NCSR, one thing that we have been doing from the early 1990s is to document all the incidents that we have received. But correctly speaking, since 2009, after the end of the civil war, and with those Buddhist extremist groups who emerged, even though there was always incidents of persecution, the number of incidents escalated. And with this increase, one of the things that we have seen in the most recent times is that mobs who lead attacks, who forcibly go into places of worship, who demand that Christian worship places need to be stopped. Smartphones have been used to document incidents like this in a very biased manner, most often by the perpetrators, and where they upload it online, portraying themselves as people who are actually implementing justice and taking up the cause of the nation.
There is also a need for the public at large to be more aware of the complexity of the challenges experienced by minority groups.
In the recent past, Muslims in Sri Lanka have been influenced by the so-called reformist groups, influenced by different sects outside the country. And they are vying with each other to increase their numbers. So this conflict within the different sects manifests itself online. The conflict also sometimes leads to violence. Now each group, of course, to kind of attract members, want to show themselves as more religious and more God conscious, and so their religiosity sometimes goes to such extremes, which actually goes against the ethos of Islam itself, because Islam stresses on taking the middle path, even in prayer. The religiosity that they have adapted, has created or seems to have created a new culture, which is seen negatively by people who are not Muslim. And that has also invited a lot of criticism against the entire Muslim community.
We found that this kind of content actually existed in a strange domain. It was public, it wasn't private, anybody could access it with a Facebook account, but since it was almost all the time in Sinhala, it wasn't also censored by Facebook, even though it contravened almost every single imaginable community guideline that Facebook itself has set for the kind of content that one can produce and publish and disseminate and talk about on Facebook as a social media platform. And this was coincidentally at a time when, post-war, there was an explosive growth in the adoption of Facebook as one's primary platform of getting news and information as well, which is a significant shift from even a few years ago, where it was just the mainstream media which was the arbiter of what the truth or the news and information was.
The thing is that with online content, first of all, we don't have really strict laws that govern online media. That's one thing. And the second thing is that we can't really regulate content on social media networks, because that's the whole point. These are, platforms for free speech.
දැන් මේක එහෙම නිත්‍යානුකූල මාර්ගයකින් පනවන්න පටන් ගත්තොත් එහෙම සුළු ප්‍රවර්ගයන් ඇතුලේ තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නයක් මට කතා කරන්න බැරි වෙයිද කියලා බයක්. උදාහරණයක් විදිහට මුස්ලිම් විවාහ නීතිය සම්බන්ධයෙන් මම බොහොම ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් විරුද්ධව සටන් කරන කෙනෙක්. මොකද මම කියන්නේ අවුරුදු 18ක්වත් වෙනකන් ස්ත්‍රියකට අවස්ථාවක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. අය විවාහ වෙනවද නැද්ද කියන එක තීරණය කිරීමේ හැකියාව ඇයට දෙන්න ඕනේ කියන එක. නමුත් දැන් මේක නීත්‍යානුකූලව පැනවුවොත් මේ වෛරී භාෂණය ඇතුළේ කාට හරි මේක අර්ථකථනය කරන්න පුළුවන්. මෙයා මේ සුළු වර්ගයේ පදනම් කරගෙන මෙන්න ඒකට විරුද්ධව ප්‍රකාශනිකුත් කරනවා කියන. දැන් ඔබට මම කියන එක තියෙන ඒ කියන්නේ යම්කිසි නිශ්චිත ජන සමාජයක් ඇතුලේ සුළු ප්‍රවර්ගයකට එරෙහිව බහුතර ඒ කියන්නේ බහුතර සමාජයේ විසින් යම්කිසි පීඩනයක් එල්ල කරද්දී අපි ඒ පීඩනයට පත්තනේ සුළු ප්‍රවර්ගය වෙනුවෙන් ඔවුන් සමග එකට එකතු වෙලා සටන් කරනවා වගේම ඒ ජන සමාජයේ ජීවත් වෙන පුද්ගලයන් ඒ ජන සමාජයේ සිටින අනෙක් පුද්ගලයන් විසින් පීඩනයට ලක් කරනවා නම් අපහසුවට ලක් කරනවා නම් ඒ ජන සමාජය ඇතුළටත් ගිහිල්ලා අපිට ඒ පීඩිතයන් එක්ක එකතු වෙලා සටන් කරන්න අවස්ථාවක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒ අවස්ථාව නැති වෙන්න බෑ. ඒක ඕනනම් මේක හරහා වහන්න පුළුවන්.
So I think we are really left with countering as kind of the really useful method to deal with this. But we really then come across this kind of really complicated business of who is doing the countering. Like I said, often the propagators of hate speech are often very organized. They are working within organizations, or at least they are working within very large informally grouped collectives, but with thousands of members. It's not a ball that gets dropped. Even if one person drops it, there's another 900 people to take it up.
සමාජයේ පසුගාමී වෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. මේවලට එච්චර බය වෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. නමුත් අපේ තියෙන්න ඕනේ නිශ්චිත අවබෝධයක් මේ වෛරී භාෂණය හා ප්‍රකාශනය කියන කාරණා පිටිපස්සේ තියෙන මේ විශාල දැවැන්ත පසුබිම් තලය සපයන මේ හයිය නැත්තම් මේ වචන වලට කිසිම ආකාරයකින් වළංගු භාවයක් නිර්මාණය වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියන කාරණා. එතකොට අපි අපේ ජීවිතේ රියල් ෆයිට් එක තියෙන්න ඕනේ මේ පසුබිම් තලයේ මේ සියලු මතවාදයන් සම්බන්ධයෙන් ෆයිට් කරලා මිනිස්සුන්ගේ ඔළුව වලින් ඒ මතවාදය අයින් කරන්න. දේශපාලනික හා ආර්ථික වශයෙන් මේ මතවාද පොලිටිකලිම කෙලින්ම අයින් කරලා දාන්න.